Hello and welcome. I'm Enigmius and this is episode 28 of the Ultimate Feed the Beast Reloaded. Today we're continuing with the Mega Creeper. Now if you watched the last episode, you may recognize immediately that there have been some additional pieces added. That's right, since the last episode I've added 6 more motor units to what was there. And I've got 3 more to go, and I've actually got the structural frame units in for those 3 additional motor units. And now all I have to do is go in and install the motors themselves. And then also you can see I've got a rough shape in place for the head. I've got ghasts crossing over into the wasteland, trying to cause problems. That's not very nice. I'm just gonna take a quick look to make sure that fireball didn't land anywhere it wasn't supposed to. I think we're all right. Now you can see also that down here I went a little bit crazy with wool covers to kind of give you an idea of what's going on aesthetically with the exterior of the modules. Now, one of the things that I noticed with this Mistcraft Age in particular is it gets a lot of shadow. This is not nearly so dark in the proper lighting as it appears this way, so for the time being I've got some temporary lamps just kind of stuck on the outside, and we'll be implementing a fix for the lighting shenanigans as soon as I can make up some more lamps. So it's not that big of a deal. It is dark. I'm aware it's dark. I've tried everything I can think of to make it less dark. It didn't want to work, so all I can do is keep doing what I'm doing, but you can kind of get the idea. It's mostly the lime green covers. That's a fairly reasonable idea of what it'll look like, with dark green and light gray covers mixed in just to kind of give that mottled appearance like you see on creepers in the wild, at least vanilla creepers. I didn't really want to try and duplicate a texture pack creeper. So that's the general idea. That's going to be what's on the outside of all of the modules, so that when they fit together and move around, it actually fits with the theme of the build. It looks like it's a creeper, so to speak. One of my viewers actually suggested that we use computer craft monitors on the head so that we can change the faces around. I originally wanted to change the faces somehow from the beginning of the build, and I was talking about it, and someone suggested, why don't you use computer craft monitors for that purpose? So we're going to mess around with that, and if we can get it to work properly, I think we can have actually a lot of fun with it beyond just simply now it's a face and now it's just a mottled green texture, because I think there's plenty of room for creativity. The only concern that I have is preserving the image on the monitor after it moves, and what it's going to take to keep that going, whether or not we can do it and make it work kind of smoothly, or whether it's going to take a bunch of stuff that's going to be jerky and odd and strange. So we'll figure that over time, but for now I've pillaged my sheep for all the wool I cared to gather. I took a cruise of the desert and found all the cacti that I dared to gather, and I dyed all of the wool with the greens and the grays and the lime wool stuff. And now we need to get some covers on this guy so that we can move a few modules together and give you an idea what it's going to look like in the finished project. So let's get down to it. Now this is where it gets honestly a little bit tedious. Now it's not too bad putting the frames in, finishing the structural elements so that we've got something to stick all the covers to. But when we actually get around to putting the covers into place, that's where it's helpful to have some music to listen to or something else to think about while I'm assembling it, because if I had to just focus on placing the covers, I'd probably go insane. It's very, very repetitious, and it's not like building most other things Minecraft where the blocks are fairly large and you've got, you can practically close your eyes and click and things will go where you want them to go. The covers is a little bit more finicky, especially when you're putting the ones adjacent to the frames that aren't actually on frames themselves. So it's one of those things that I'm glad that I could show you the time lapse, because if I had to do this real time doing commentary as I went, there'd be a certain amount of profanity. But it's not bad. It's one of those things when I do projects this large, I go into it knowing that I'm going to hit these particular sections where it's a whole lot of the same thing over and over and over again, and it doesn't matter what part of it you're on, it all looks the same. Because we've got all of these modules, with the exception of the head, are the exact same dimension. So it's going to be very, very much about, I recognize this shape, I recognize this size, I recognize this frame layout over and over and over again. But when it's done, we're going to have a creeper that's 70 blocks tall. So, bit of a trade-off. I don't know too many people who have a 70 block tall creeper that walks. It's just a thing that it doesn't exist out there that I know of. And I actually did Google for it before I started building it in my Tech It series, because I didn't want to put all this effort into something that's already been done a million times before. I think I'm the first person to do a 70 block high creeper robot. One thing that I'm not doing right now, just for the sake of my own sanity, is counting how many covers I'm going to need to get this whole thing done. I'm content to just go spend some time with my sheep, borrow their clothes for a while, dye it, cut it up, come here for a while, stick them to some frames, and then go do something else before I lose my mind, that sort of thing. Don't really want to know exactly how many times I'm duplicating the same process. Now, when this is done, the goal here today is basically just to get enough covers on the front, first of all, so that you can see the pattern, see how that's working out, and also on the tops and the bottoms, so that once I put them together, I don't have to worry about pulling them apart again to finish off what I started. It's not that it would be difficult to do that, it's because I'm trying to also get all the frequencies set on all the motor units, and if I have to keep pulling them apart, it means I have to keep changing the frequencies and, you know, making a mess like that. So as far as this goes, once they go together, if I can leave them together, so much the better, and then I can just do the sides and the back face whenever I come back to continue working on putting covers on here. So really, if we look at it in terms of what we've got done and what we still need to do, we need to finish a few more motor units. I think there's three in the head, I think, is all that I have left to do for motor units. And I've already got all the motors made. If I see another diamond draw plate, I'm probably going to throw up in my mouth a little bit. It's just, I made so many in the process of making those motors. And I made enough so that I don't have to make any more. So that was good. I've also got the wireless receivers made up, so I don't have to worry about that. So the motor units go in. We have to get all of the covers on. I just have to say that because obviously that's what we need to do, because we're showing that it right now, and we're not doing all of it today. And then we need to do the computer craft routines, and that's going to be potentially the fun part. We're going to be using wireless RedNet with wireless RedNet turtles, or Rether turtles, as it would work out. So I think what is going to end up happening is we're going to have one turtle for each module on the creeper. And that way we don't have to worry about doing it with a Red Power computer and trying to work through the I/O expander and all that other stuff. I don't even know how that would work. All I know is the wireless RedNet seemed like it would be a much more straightforward way to do it. So that's what we're going to do. And then once all that's done, once we've got a creeper that actually moves, functions, does everything that we want it to do on the most basic level, then we can think about interesting things that we can add to it just for purely the laughs, which I've already got a few things in mind. Most of them I'm pretty comfortable will be actually doable. They're not really taking any risks in terms of design. It should just go together fairly nice. And then we could just play around with it for a little while, which it's hard to go wrong when you've got something like this that you can just suddenly play around with. You don't have to worry about building anymore. And then if you don't feel like playing with it anymore, you just leave it in the wasteland. Back up the save so that you can import it into other worlds. So now the covers are on as far as we need them to be on for our little demonstration, our little test. And now it's just a matter of going through and setting all the frequencies so that, again, we want to duplicate the movement of the modules with the wireless remote instead of moving each one individually like I did the first time. And this is where I found out that I actually set a lot of the frequencies wrong. it was supposed to be the final frequency set, and I did it wrong, so I have to go through pretty much everything again and set the frequencies. But all we know for sure right now is that the motor units work, and if we set them to the same frequency as our wireless remote, we will be able to make them move. So we got that guy up into place. We can change his frequency back to whatever, and then finish moving the guy below him up into place, and that'll be your first look at what one of the legs will look like when it's done, from the front anyways. Kind of like that. So just like a normal creeper leg, it doesn't have anything distinguishing it from, you know, it doesn't have a knee, it doesn't have any kind of joints or anything like that. It's just a rectangular sort of thing that sits there until the creeper decides to move. So that's basically what I wanted to duplicate. And when you look at it, the only way you'd know now that it's in 3 modules is if you were looking at the little wooden frames around the covers that are on the frames that are basically making up the structure of each module. So that's kind of cool the way it blends together like that. And if I can get this other one set up properly, this is right here where I learned you did it wrong. You did it wrong, you idiot. That's not the right frequency. Damn it. Now I'm confused. It's not my fault. And then I realized, you know what, it doesn't matter. We're just going to set the frequency and make it move, and that's all it needs to do. Because we got stuff to do. We got to finish this guy, and we don't want to spend all of our time dicking around with the wrong frequency. Just get these guys up into place. Now you notice the lamps are sliding off the front, and that was by design. Sort of. I put covers on before I put the lamps on each of the modules because I just wanted to have the covers on so that the covers would be done. And as a result, when I move the modules, the lamps stay behind. The ones that we're going to be adding for actual ongoing lighting purposes will actually be attached to frames, so they won't be left behind when we move around. If I could figure out how to get out of here, move it up. We've almost got 2 legs that are pretend done. One more. You can do it. There it is. So there it is. As far as we can get it today anyways. I need a lot more frames. I need a lot more covers. And I need a fair bit of time to finish the structural bits, but we'll get that done. It's an inevitability. We've come this far. I'm not going to give up now because the covers are a pain in the butt. But hopefully that gives you sort of an idea of where we're going with this when I talk about the modules coming together to make something that resembles a creeper. Now, obviously, we need to get the covers on the inside sections of the legs so that we can move the legs together. That's part of the equation as well. As well with all the torso sections, those will obviously be coming together. And then the head is really the only piece that's not needing to be butchered with moving different segments together, at least not so far. With the current plan, we shouldn't need to do that. So by the next episode, I'll have at least some more done. I don't know how much exactly. I would like to have it all done with the covers and the remaining structural bits. What we haven't done is talked about any of the fun things that we're going to be able to do with this guy beyond just have it looking like a really, really, really big creeper. And that's because I'm going to have something of a surprise, and I've got a few things in mind already that will be very, very easy to add once we get the primary structural bits done. But I kind of want to get it mostly together and looking like a creeper and start getting some of the control routines in place before we start going too crazy with all of the extras, because we could waste a lot of time on extras only to find there was some sort of critical flaw somewhere that requires a rework of all kinds of stuff, and all of a sudden those extras don't fit anymore, or something along those lines. It's always better to leave the extras for once you know the thing is actually going to work. So that's where we're at. Next episode, it will continue to look more and more like a creeper, and might even show off some of the interesting routines that we're going to be using to control the son of a bitch. So if you're enjoying this and you want to see what it looks like, come the next episode, the easiest way to make sure you know that episode has been uploaded is to subscribe to my channel. So thanks for watching, guys, and take care.